not growing up on a farm or anything. My first experience was quite painful, squeezing off the double triggers on a double side-by-side shotgun. So 2 20 shots going off in your kid's shoulder was quite sore. But loved it. Shooting the various disciplines in sporting, and now as an instructor for Suarez International.
How did you get involved with Suarez, and how did you end up owning your own business?
Well, I'd say about 2001, 2002, Gabe Suarez contacted me on the off chance that there was an opportunity to host him. Not knowing how big a job it would be, I just said, yeah, sure, why not? Come on through. He arrived, and we obviously stayed with me, so we chatted a lot after hours. He ran the classes. It just so happens we kind of think, or I think, a lot like him, and from that it just grew. I qualified as an instructor. I brought him out in 2010 again, and it's just grown from there. And then just introducing South Africans to the Suarez International brand. It does have a big following in South Africa. A lot of guys, until recently, didn't realize there was a South African chapter. So that's generally in a brief description of how it all started.
Very interesting. You said you and Gabe, you thought alike, had things in common. Do you want to tell me a little bit about that? Because Gabe's a high-level professional, so I mean, the fact that there's an overlap, that's a compliment. So I'd like to know a bit more.
Yeah, no, it's thinking out of the box, not focusing on outcomes-based training, but utilizing performance-based training. Not entertaining your clients. It's training your clients for their best outcome. Packing your ego away. This is the sort of stuff when when I go to the States, I live with Gabe and his wife in his house, and what the Gabe you see is the Gabe you see. He is a humble man. Not because I've got his name here, but these are aspects that I want in my life, and it's how to treat clients and how to bring about the training curriculum in a way that the client will understand. All thanks to him.
Okay, no, it's good. So how have you found yourself developing and improving over the years since you've known him? What kind of influence has he been on you?
Well, when you've got somebody of his stature and they would they turn around confidently and say XYZ is wrong because it won't work for various reasons. Because somebody say, a YouTube warrior is busy rolling around on the ground and doing stupid things, and everyone's wowing over it, and then he'll come out and say, hypothetically, no, that's wrong, it doesn't work. As when somebody of that caliber comes out and says, no, that is junk, it gives you the confidence as a younger instructor to say, actually, let me review it. Yes, actually, it is rubbish. So the confidence building, under Gabe is phenomenal. Encouragement. He is definitely a man he stands by his word, and that's that. He backs his people up. I can tell you that from personal experience. He will stand by his men and women 100%. If we're just, that's it. We have his backing, and as I say, I've experienced that firsthand, thankfully, and I'm very glad he did that.
My first introduction to Gabe was the Die Less Often series that he collaborated with Mark Denny.
Oh yes,
it was very interesting. I must admit, I have a copy of it. It is a very good video series, and the instruction is first class. Certainly first class, no nonsense, to the point. And I like what you said, that he's performance oriented. I've heard that about all the best instructors seem to really have that as a requirement for their students.
And I fully agree with that.
Over the years, what were some of besides Gabe, what are some of the other influences you've had, good or bad, formative influences over the last couple of years?
Well, the bad ones, the positive influences, Kelly McCain, phenomenal combatives, things out of the box, stuff that works. It's phenomenal combatives that he teaches. I've had 2 of my clients who already use it upcountry very effectively. Dave Lumpruck's a professional of note. I don't collaborate with other instructors, but I'm talking with them. I've got some gentlemen in America that I greatly admire. Abner Miranda, Tier 1 citizen, Dave Spalding. We have general chit-chats, and and I'm learning. Dave Sporting is a gentleman who's older than me, but with years more experience. So, generally when he talks, I shut up and I listen and I take notes. Because as with our curriculum, it's never static, and I always want to be better. To a point as well. Travis Haley, there's some on his biomechanics, how the body works, stuff like that, and getting into the science of shooting and how the body is. That has really benefited me in my classes and being able to help clients overcome certain hurdles. So yeah, that's a few of them.
No, I'll vouch for that, because when I did the training with you, you were able to immediately address various postural issues, various alignment issues. You very quickly made solid sense of it. You were able to say, look, stand as such. You even took photos of it using the app on your phone to illustrate the ideal posture and the ideal alignment. And the improvement in the shooting was remarkable and very, very quick.
It does. I find, especially here in South Africa, we have a mindset of, in 1970, we boermaak 'n plan. We made a plan and we just did it. We didn't need anybody. And that mindset seems to have stuck. Unfortunately, I find a lot of the instructors, like, you want to go up to them and say, here's my phone. I want to introduce you to the internet and what's happening out there. There's a whole world out there that you can learn from. There's good and bad, but there's good stuff that we can learn from to better yourself as an instructor. That's one of the hurdles that we come up against in South Africa, I think, is our mindset. We lager around and we go, no, we don't need anybody.
I understood. No, I agreed. I don't think it's particular to South Africa. A word that you mentioned twice is biomechanics. And I noticed from the training with you that you take a very sports science methodical approach. You operate like a coach, and it's very disciplined. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that? You mentioned Travis Haley with biomechanics, but can you tell us a bit more about how you got into that? Because I'll vouch for it as being a very, very effective method of training.
Yeah, it's I studied biology on a tertiary level, and I graduated through that. So, and I come from a medical background with my family, so I've always loved medicine. It's everybody's been created differently. Our body types are all different. Some are fat, some are thin, some are skinny. That's life. That's politically incorrect. I know we can't call people fat, but facts are facts. Facts don't care about your feelings. So we're all built differently. But on top of that, we all are in diving, we call it a fudge factor. The things that hold us back, each one's got a unique one. Someone might have a gamey knee or a bad elbow, or suffering from tennis elbow, something like that. So understanding the biomechanics of the body, what the body can naturally do, I take that, and then I'll see, okay, what are your fudge factors? Okay, you've got a gamey knee. All right. You've got to work around that. So you do have a bit of a hobble of a walk. So we need to build that kind of natural hobble into your movement drill. The other day I had a gentleman, he had 2 broken ankles that have kind of semi-repaired, and the bullet is still in his upper thigh. He's not exactly doing Chuck Norris kicks. He's not. So we had to work around those fudge factors and get him on the go to what he can do. So with biomechanics, performance-based training, it's more client-focused. It's a more mature way to train people, because now you're not criticizing, but you're building them up, but they have to criticize themselves and say, you know what, I can do better. You know what, I can work harder at this. And with the biomechanics of their body, I can also help them and say, right, this is what you could probably try and make this less of a hindrance to you, on the shooting range in defense of your life. For myself, when I was born, and I only know this because I've seen the x-rays, my one vertebra didn't fuse. So I've got a very bad lower back, but through personal training, which I learned from Gabe Suarez in your own personal time, not gym time, for the past 10 years, I've never had back problems because I train to strengthen it.
Yeah, you do take a very personalized approach to each student. It certainly wasn't, it didn't feel like a factory, one size fits all, the run-of-the-mill kind of thing. Yeah, there was very much an individualized approach, and each one was assessed and then given recommendations based on their particular reality, the ground reality for them. Tell us a little bit about the curriculum that you offer. What are the different products, or whatever you would call them, in terms of what you teach?
We start off with an essential foundation class. Essential foundations forms the basis of absolutely everything. I mean, you would never build a house where your foundations are made of cardboard and then put glass structure up. It will eventually fall down. So essential foundations are just absolutely critical. Well, it's in the name, they're essential. But it is one of the least trained curriculums around the world. Everybody wants to dive out of windows and blow up cars and stuff like that. But the essential foundations are lacking. So we actually start every class off with an essential foundation review. Although I do have a dedicated class, essential foundations, where we really go into it. We spend time going over and solidifying the essential foundations, and where I show the client okay, avoid this, and this is the reason why you want to avoid this stance or that grip. Then we'll go on to a close range gunfighting 2. That's kind of the meat and potato class. That's when we introduce the client into movement. I think that's the class that you did. Movement, one-handed shooting. We take the shooting range almost to a 360-degree shooting. It's as safe as we can on a shooting range. But that's when we'll introduce various techniques which are combat-proven or reality-based that work. But again, all the while explaining why. From that, you can go into close-range gunfighting 3, which is a bit more dynamic. We use force-on-force, more dynamic disarms. From there, you can go into a shotgun class. Shotgun there's not a lot to do with the shotgun. But then we'll go on to, I've got 2 new classes, Ultimate AR class, that's your AR-15 platform, and Ultimate AK Galil class. Within those classes, I've split them up for the reason is that with the AR, I teach a client how to strip the rifle. What parts wear quicker than other parts? What parts must they look out for? How do you set your rifle up? So I teach them about the equipment, which is pretty. And then from there, I teach them how to shoot it, and then start with movement drills and more dynamic stuff, various positions, shooting positions and stuff. And so the same with the AK Galil platform.
That's quite extensive, and that's without even getting into your structure combatives as well as your vehicle combatives.
Yeah.
And your other topics, low light, self-defense, and the law. You spoke very extensively about that. And safety, I must admit, you had a very, very strong emphasis on safety and discipline, which I found very satisfying when I worked with you. There's so many things I want to tackle, but I have a question first, and then I want to ask you 3 specifics that your course discusses. Why do you teach a client to strip a weapon?
It helps the client to understand the platform that they're working with. And look, I mean, I enjoy it as well. I mean, because I get, I love the workings of the guns, but it helps the client to understand. Like, let's take an AR. Now, suddenly, because the client understands how this platform works, suddenly down the line, he's shooting a sport match or whatever, and something happens. Now, in his brain, he can understand. Okay, wait, the bolt comes back, and it does. Oh, wait. Maybe I've got a broken recoil spring because I'm not hearing that ding-ling-ling sound. Or maybe my gas port wasn't tight enough, so I'm getting less gas in my tube. So it helps him to understand their platform and diagnose problems. So it's important to understand that and get used to the sound of their rifle and how does a working rifle sound. And, if you've got a failure to eject case, that round did not feel right. It helps in the self-diagnosis.
Okay, and obviously you want to be sure that this weapon will function when it's needed the most.
For sure, yeah.
There's 3 things that you emphasize when looking at your website, and you've mentioned it to me in discussions as well. Directly and obliquely reference these. Your courses are reality-based, student-focused, and combat-proven. Now, the term reality-based is in many cases, I think, overused.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, there are those people who have a degree of integrity and are desperately or committed to being as realistic as possible, understanding the problem and defining it clearly before they provide solutions, whereas some may or may not have that contact with reality, and they're presenting fantasy solutions to fantasy problems. Now, can you tell us a little bit about your concept and how it influences what you teach in terms of reality-based, being student-focused, and combat-proven.
Well, I mean, yeah, the reality base is you touched on it earlier, where I want to take what your body can do naturally and we weaponize it. That's a quote from Terry. It's I want to work with reality. I want to say to the guys, look, sitting and smelling the daisies all day whilst the bad guys are prowling and growling and trying to kill you, that's bad currency. You want to be able to prepare. You can't go too wackadoodle and get all gruesome and start studying pictures of mutilated bodies. That's just weird, and you deserve to be in an institution for that. But we want to be reality focused. I don't want to have a technique which doesn't work. It doesn't work with your body, so how can you do it? I don't want you have to retrain your body. I've seen that all too often. Student focused, well, I mean, I think you pretty much handled that with what you've been saying about my teaching style. Combat proven, well, like I say, I know up in the Eastern Cape, two of my clients, after leaving the classes, they went and with the combatives, sorted out a potentially very bad situation very quickly. The technique came from Gabe, which obviously we teach. A gentleman we know in the early 2000s in Afghanistan solved a very potentially lethal situation to himself, used the technique, got off the line and actually solved the problem. It's proven, it's simple, you can do it. And I think that forms the basis. I've been told with my one book, it's too simple, it's basic. That's what it's meant to be. Techniques are meant to be easy, because in a time of stress, what do you go to? You go to easy. You don't go to complex. So it must be easy. It must work with your body.
Okay, no, thanks for that explanation. As a South African, as someone who understands the situation in South Africa, can I have your thoughts maybe on the firearms training industry in South Africa? Is it appropriate to the conditions we find ourselves in terms of crime and violent crime in this country? Well, what are some of your thoughts, without naming names? I mean, it's just I'd just like to get some of your thoughts on maybe some of the good points and some of the bad points of various training that is offered in the country, and where you feel you separate yourself.
I'm going to get so many less Christmas cards this year now.
No, I'd just like to get some of your honest thoughts on that. I mean, understand everyone has an opinion, and it's. I don't want to be overly controversial. We're not here to slag people, but I'm sure you've got some. I'm sure you've got some of your own thoughts.
Pretty much every morning, I do an hour to 2 hours worth of research, because I want to know what's new out there, what's applicable, what's happening in crime trends, stuff like that. I would say there's probably about 2 other instructors that are okay. You know what? Thumbs up. Not that I'm judging them or anything like that. I'm just, rating them in my opinion. As I say, 2 instructors that, yes. Unfortunately, there are the vast majority of instructors that run away and they go and do the basic class, so they can do competencies and stuff, and they join up with various organizations. From what I've seen people running towards, the target, which is representing the armed person, falling on the ground and having a gun battle on the ground after you flicked around at them, and flick is a quote, to people jumping over barrels and shooting. It's not a very well regulated industry. And then again, on the flip side, it should not be a regulated thing, but it's not top quality. I do not see instructors bar, let me see, one of the 2, the other one I do not know, so I can't say if he does or does not. I do not see instructors in South Africa attending credible classes where they are a student, not going there to steal, but going there as a student, where you shut up, you listen, you learn. I don't see that. I think, unfortunately, in the training world in South Africa, we have very unteachable male instructors. I don't know about the females, but yeah.
So I'm curious. I mean, look, if you look at something like the US, which is a gun culture, and has lots of instructors, lots of competition, it's easy to find quality instruction, and it's easy to compare. In South Africa, we're pretty isolated. We're very far from the rest of the world. I mean, the next stop is the South Pole. for us, we're kind of isolated, which means that bad ideas do not necessarily get moved out of the culture as quickly as they could otherwise. Would that be correct?
I've seen some complete and utter idiots in America. I mean, you know what? It's just take that gun away from that guy and don't even give him knitting needles. Just stay away from anything sharp. And
So,
like
so I'm curious. I mean, you have a reputation for being a little controversial. Um, and Gabe has a reputation for being very controversial. Do you think some of your views come from him, or is that one of those places where you guys overlap?
I think no. It's. I think it's in areas that we overlap. I mean, you speak to my mother.
Oh boy.
Sometimes she just shakes her head and goes, "Where did I get you from?" I am naturally controversial.
What positive changes, if you were in charge of firearms training in South Africa, for instance, what are some of the positive changes you would bring? And how would you bring it into better alignment to deal with the needs of our good gun owners that are dealing with the deadly threats in this country?
That's a massive question. And I do not think it actually starts with the civilian legal firearm owner. That sort of question is on the desk of our police commissioner. The police, the training is of such a low standard. It is so shocking. And the reports I'm getting from guys inside, they say literally they're interested in hair and nails, and that's that, and a paycheck.
If you could change their syllabus, what would you do?
Well, it goes before that. It goes into recruitment. It'll be part of the psych test that would be to determine, is this guy, does he feel, black, white, colored, I really don't care. Does he feel he was born to be a police officer, a servant of the people, a servant of the law? Yes, no.
I think we realize that there are certain shortcomings within the administration that we have. But these are issues that we can't solve at our pay grade, unfortunately. Ultimately, then comes back to the gun owner. Many people buy a gun and they feel that's almost sufficient. They'll spend 15,000 rand on a gun and they'll bulk at spending 800 rand on training. Which is I think a common issue. How would you improve things in terms of the training that is offered to gun owners? Do you think we have a good, what is offered and what the law dictates as to, what is required? Do you think that's good enough, or how would you improve it?
No, I look, personally, I feel that we have a mindset problem here. There's a mindset of, I've purchased a firearm, it sits in my safe, I am now bulletproof to anything because the gun will solve all the problems. And I was actually having a discussion on the range today with the clients, one of the guys attending the class. People in South Africa, look, I don't know about America, they purchase a firearm, and as you said, they spend, let's say, 15,000 rand on a firearm, and they put it on a 50 rand belt. They put, full metal jackets, the cheapest full metal jackets, probably reloads into their carry rounds. They buy a 100 rand Kondura holster, and that's it. Hey, I'm good to go. And what I teach people as well is that it's no. When you purchase a firearm, you purchase a rig, your daily rig. Now, what determines that rig? Well, it's your mission. What is your daily mission? And all our missions are different. A surgeon, I've got clients who are surgeons, and it's like they say, look, I've got a Glock 26. I need to carry it in the hospital. We've got to figure out a solution for them. That's their mission. So a thigh holster doesn't fit their mission. I think putting that in to help people understand it's a lifestyle modification. When you purchase a firearm, it's now you are responsible for that firearm, and you need to be a professional with it in your outset, your mindset, the way you talk to people. Everything must change. You don't debate the anti-gun nuts. You can reason, talk, but you know what? If you don't disagree with me, I don't care. I'm not going to fight with you. So as I say, the mindset needs to change in an ideal world with the training. The competencies that we do now are, I don't know.
It's bare bones.
It is bare bones. Unfortunately, it's for the grade C security guard.
I think it also may create a false sense of complacency or security for those who've done it, who feel that this is what they need and don't go beyond that.
For sure, for sure. I mean, I've had, 15, 20-year police, public order cop come in here, and we just general, like you and I sit and chit-chat. And he turns to me and says, I've actually got to come to your class. I know nothing. And this guy's got more combat experience than me. But he realized that we're just discussing essential foundations, how the brain works under stress, how the body's work, and he's just, and 2 hours later, I've done no work, and he's got free training.
Interesting. It's a compliment to you. And as a South African, I would hope for really high standards and high quality of effective training for those people who own firearms. I mean, I think it's a real need in this country. The threats are real. The crime is a real issue here.
No, for sure.
Yeah, these are subjects we can obviously expand on, but there's so many things to chat about. I'd like to touch on various things. When I was with you, you mentioned the law fairly often. Can you just briefly, in terms of the law and how you teach that and why it's important for clients to know that?
When I do in essential foundations, the people, the attendees have generally done it in their competency, but it's and look, I'm no lawyer, but I wanted them to have just a basic understanding. I'm doing research now for our fourth book, Self-Defense in the Law, and the seminar. My ideal is I want my clients to walk away and go, all right, I understand a little bit more about the law, so they become a more responsible citizen, but they also understand the police have procedures that they have to follow, so they're more a responsible citizen, but they also understand their rights. And that's a big thing. No, we don't, as you know, I don't delve for an hour into the law. I think everybody will probably fall asleep. But it's just where a learning opportunity occurs during the class. I'll bring something up. Or it's like today I had the question: are hollow points legal in South Africa for civilians? It's a learning opportunity. This is what the law states. Understanding it it's another, in inverted commas, weapon in your toolkit.
You're right. You're right. Yeah, I found that, as you said, these learning opportunities that you mentioned, everything you said was very topical and relevant. You introduced it at the right time so that it made sense to the student at that moment in time. It cleared another obstacle out of their way, which they may not have realized was an obstacle. I found it introduced very professionally. That you observe your students very carefully, and you do time the information to make the most impact.
Thank you.
Yeah. So a couple of things. You mentioned your books. Now, I discovered that you have 3 books already on Amazon, and you said you're busy on 2 more. Perhaps you can tell us about that and expand on them, because I think those are relevant topics, and you can tell us a bit more about what you do. What got you to write them?
I think there was an economic slump in South Africa, so I had a little extra time. So I thought, oh, what the hell? Let me just write a book. So if Mr. O'Reilly is listening to this, my old English teacher, I've got 5 books I'm doing.
Okay.
With hopefully no spell mistakes. The first book is, I've literally just took at that stage, because now it's changed, it's developed even further, my dynamic vehicle combatives class, and I put it into a book form. The books, the way I write them, it's in conversational tone, which some people might not like. I try to bring it across, as I said, like with my class, where it's simple terminology. There's not all these big words. You can read it. You can read it in a night. They range from about 100 pages to 130 pages. It's based on a South African perspective. I like to be able to, and this the term I borrowed from Travis Haley, is set yourself up for success. If you can avoid a gunfight or any conflicts, hey, you've won. So I know that's not very Rambo and man, but it's the wise thing. You want to get home to your family, to your loved ones. So if you can avoid it, if you can see it early, great, you can avoid it. So that in the first 2 books, well, the first book is on dynamic vehicle combatives. The second one is structure combatives. That is a South African perspective of how to set your castle up using the environment, security, all that sort of stuff, and still live in your house, but creating layers of defense. The third book, which I don't know if there is one out there, is how to train your children in firearms safely.
Yeah, Children and Firearms it's called.
Yeah, Children and Firearms and that. I've got 3 boys who they all started shooting at just before their 3rd birthday. So it's literally stuff that I've learned that has worked well with my boys, stuff I've spoken to with fellow instructors that I respect, who are also fathers, and I've got their perspective. And I just put it into I think it's an 80-page book or something like that. Is that the fourth book I'm writing in conjunction with a friend of mine, Detective Rudolph Roux. He's a 15-year detective, and that's the self-defense and the law. That's not really anything to do with knives or guns. It's also the seminar that we're going to be presenting, where we go to companies on their locations and we teach them about their rights. We teach them police procedures from a policeman's point of view. We teach them crime scene management, how to avoid a crime scene, how to not become part of the chain of evidence and i.e. end up in court because you touched the evidence or you disturbed the evidence, and now you've got to spend a day in court not earning any money whilst you wait for a prosecutor to call on you. But also so you don't tamper with evidence, so it makes the crime scene pure. And so the crime scene techs and forensic guys can have an untainted crime scene. Or if there's an injured person, what to do, stuff like that. So we actually build up to crime scenes where they get very practical experience. And then we teach them arrest techniques, which as civilians we can do. That book is going to be out in a month or two's time. The fifth book, that is the combative red dot pistol. Gabe Suarez has written two phenomenal books on the red dot, and you know what? Call a spade a spade. Gabe has taken the red dot from where Kelly McCain, kind of as for EDC, for everyday carry, Kelly McCain kind of slotted a doctor sight, the original doctor sight, onto a Glock 19. Gabe has taken it to ninja level, to Chuck Norris level, and really, really taken it there. So he wrote two books on that. I've literally just taken kind of what he's done, and I've just, for lack of a better term, bulked it up. So I go kind of a bit more into depth of holster selection, what holsters to avoid, the selection of the top 5 red dot sights. I predict in 5 years' time, the red dot pistol for everyday carry will be prolific here in South Africa. So we're just getting ahead of the curve. So this is more of the guide. If you want to put a red dot on your pistol, where do you go? Well, here's a book. This will set you up from day 0 to where you've set it up now, and now you can start doing those 100-yard, 100-meter shots. And you've got something that's a selection that's in your budget.
Under which circumstances would an owner of a firearm with the red dot sight need to shoot at 100 meters?
Here in South Africa, well, we're starting to pick up a lot of dashboard cams where there's cash and transit just occurring on the highway. It's not necessarily, I need it for self-defense, a 100-meter shot. But what it is, it's taking pistol craft now to the next level, where we're refining it. So we're saying, we're not going for the A zone, we're going for the A in the A zone. On the IPSC target, you've got the A there. That's what we're going for. So we're refining it so the essential foundations are critical, and the setup of your pistol, we're taking it, we're refining it, we're sharpening that point. Yes, you can stab somebody with a butter knife, but you know what? If you've got a sharp knife, that's even better.
Would this be applicable? Because I know some of the crimes that are committed here, one of the sad things about South Africa, these farm murders that are occurring, would this give a farmer who's got a handgun with a red dot sight an edge or some sort of opportunity to combat someone with an AK, for instance, who can stand off at that range? Would this give him realistic opportunity to hit someone at that range?
It's kind of a loaded question because, again, as I said earlier, we want to have lifestyle modification. So, I want that farmer that he understands the pros and cons of his platform that he's chosen. He's up against an AK. If he has an opportunity, run. But on the physiological side is, we start hitting our 40s, our eyes deteriorate. So now to start focusing on our front sight, mating up with our rear sight, that is now time. And now it's slightly dark. I can't pick up my sights. There's a hesitation where now when you present it and there's that dot, bearing in mind that he's trained, he has sought out excellence. You know, he's put the time behind the platform. You can't expect to be a sniper after shooting 10 shots with your 308, but because you dressed as in a ghillie suit, you're the man. You've got to spend time behind your platform. If he has, and he understands his platform, and he's taking firearm ownership seriously, and he's seeking excellence, 50 meters, he sees the guy on his farm, and he's got an AK. It's a doable shot. It's a very doable shot. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's good information. Thank you. I think especially for those who do live under potential threat, I mean, any advantage is valuable. Yeah, you're talking about the Rambos. I watch YouTube like everyone else, and you do see training that is very dynamic, very interesting, lots of fun. I do look at it now. I am no firearms expert, and I do look at it and I go, how realistic or actual, what are you actually learning? It's a lot of fun. I mean, no doubt. I would go do it and I'd have a ball of a time,
Yeah.
But there is an emphasis on doing a lot of stuff that doesn't necessarily have any viable skills transfer. I know you do dynamic vehicle combatives with firearms, as well as combatives inside the vehicle. And how do you feel that your approach differs to what is out there? Because what I've seen of the video on YouTube is that your approach is much calmer, slower, more methodical versus the dynamic Rambo, run around, jump up and down, throw grenades and shoot things. So tell us a bit about that, please.
A term that was coined by Abner Miranda, Tier 1 citizen, is Enter-TRAIN-ment. And we're seeing the training out there in South Africa and America and stuff. Actually, and let's just paint we'll pour the paint bucket over Europe, is where people come to class where they are being entertained. The more kind of drills the guys can do, and the dirtier they get, they walk away and it's woohoo, it's wonderful. Like with my dynamic vehicle class, I teach people and I say, as far as possible, as humanly possible, avoid the ground. Now, you look at some of the top classes in America and stuff, the guys are on the ground and that. It's number one, what is your mission? Well, mine is civilian-based because the civilian population are the guys being tackled. Avoid the ground. Why? Because I'm in a shopping center. There's stones there, and there's ricochets and stuff. And if I can shoot through my car, which an animal will go through quite happily both doors, that bad guy's stuff will also do that. So if I can move off the line and put 3 or 4 cars in between us, suddenly that changes things. That 9mm round's not going to get through and get to me. And I'm changing the dynamics of the fight.
You're right. I was shot at with a 9mm hard nose. It went through the rear passenger window. Only missed my neck because I ducked, and it went out the passenger door and ended up in the tarmac. The car is paper thin as far as the second shot hit the door lock, fortunately, which stopped the bullet. But if it hadn't been the door lock, it would have been neat. So yeah, I do understand that. I agree. If you're static, you're a fixed target. The guy can line up or walk his bullets, he runs into you. Tell us a bit more, I mean, in case I've missed anything, as to why you don't want to go to the ground.
Think of yourself, now you kneel down, and there's a pebble there. We've all had that opportunity. We've knelt down, and, my patella, oh my gosh. You are hampering yourself now through a bad technique. There was this one drill that I was shown, and I'm sorry, I'm just going to have to say it here. Send me the email if you're complaining about it, you don't like it. Krav Maga. The idiots. They were one-handed shooting, and now they wanted to load their firearm, i.e. they wanted to cock their slide. So they put it onto the soft meat of their inner forearm and cock it there. I said, if your arm, no, but your arm is out of action. I said, well, if your arm's out of action, you sure as hell not going to flex the muscle and keep it rigid to do that. So it makes no sense. And if my arm is still good, why am I shooting one-handed? And why do I want to rip that backslide on my soft flesh and injure myself? It doesn't make sense.
Look, no offense to anyone who does Krav Maga, but it is everyone's favorite whipping boy.
Yeah, I love the Israelis, but you cannot take a military system and put it in for civilians. I'm sorry, there I said it. Okay, burn the cross outside my house. I don't care. You can't do.
People will agree with you. Their SOPs, their ROEs are different.
I've chatted to them. It's ludicrous. It's utterly ludicrous. And I'm happy to say that a lot of our farmers are booting them off their training farms and are calling us. And one of my things, like with the vehicle stuff, The farmer, he's got a job to do. He doesn't have time to spend a day on the shooting range. He does not have that time. The combative skill sets that we do in the vehicle class, the guy can take the guy down in his tractor. He can take the guy down with the same technique in his truck, in his pickup, in his car, in his little Mercedes micro vehicle or whatever. He can use the same technique in each environment. It does not matter. So, you've got cross-pollination between different vehicles. You can take the guy down in the airline. You can use the same technique with an airline as a passenger. So it works across all of those transport methods. On a train, it's the same, and that's what you want. That's why generally we kind of do one technique of a disarm. Why? Well, because of Hicks' law. Look it up on Wikipedia. Hicks' law. BS baffles the brain. I'll let your listeners go look it up. If you've got too many options, your brain will actually eventually just shut down, and because your brain's trying to sort through which technique should I use. One simple technique. No ballet moves. One simple technique.
Yeah, very interesting thoughts that you're putting out. I think in some of what you said, with people I've spoken with, many will agree with you there with much of what you've said. I have one question though. The handgun. The word isn't hands gun. What is I understand it's obviously much better to shoot two-handed, but what about shooting one-handed? When is it appropriate? When would you recommend it? Would you generally say it's better to shoot two-handed and so on? Just give us your thoughts on that.
Sure. Yeah. Look, it is just for recoil management. And I'm talking across most body types now, not the what's prolific now, the bearded, muscular, tattooed guy who can shoot one-handed more accurate than we can shoot two-handed. You've got to think of Joe Soap and his wife. Two-handed is obviously better because you've got better recoil management. You've got more, as it classifies, meat holding the firearm. One-handed technique you would use in a dynamic movement where, because I'm shooting, say, to my right, directly to my right, I can't get a proper grip two-handed, so I'm going to use a one-handed grip there. Shooting around a barricade where maybe you have to kind of get off balance in your stance, so you've got to hold on to something. I'm cautioning myself to use the term, but it's more of an emergency shooting platform. You are kind of forced to shoot one-handed now. Bearing that in mind, it is a technique that you need to practice. It is definitely usable. Left hand, right hand.
I'm aware from the time that I spent with you previously that you qualified all of your opinions. You would have your views, but you would qualify them and demonstrate or explain that this is how I came to this conclusion. So you wouldn't just say things without any particular reason.
And that's important. Yeah, you get too many people standing on the hilltop screaming facts, and then when you ask them, okay, why? If you can explain to me why, then you've afforded me an opportunity to learn and better myself and be a better instructor. And look, that technique, that I learned from Gabe. I don't even think he even realized that he was teaching it. I was watching him, how he brought it across. And again, I think one other instructor here that I respect greatly is he also teaches in that manner.
I don't want to, obviously the agreement was that I want to keep the talk between 45 minutes to an hour, so that doesn't extend. Considering that there's so much I could go back to or expand upon, there's so many different things we haven't even touched on yet that I have as discussion topics. I'll slowly start to wind it down because we're approaching the hour mark. Tell us a little bit about, and again, I think the issue in South Africa of the farm murders, that's something relevant, and also home invasions. My house was attacked. My brother was in the house. I wasn't, and this was at 2:00 on a Monday morning. Fortunately, you heard these guys. Now, the house had gates and bars, but they simply got themselves a pair of bolt cutters, got through the front gate, got through the security gate and the front door, and started kicking down the door when they couldn't get in. My brother braced the door with his back, and these guys were talking about shooting through the door. Subsequent to that, my brother is now, let's say my house and my brother are now far more prepared for such an eventuality. Although, considering the amount of effort I've put into securing the place, it's my other house. it's less likely for that to happen. But it was obviously a very, very frightening situation. So in terms of structured combatives, I think for me, it was a lesson that hit home. I nearly lost my brother. I think this is something that people should learn. Can you just tell us a little bit about structured combatives, why you feel it's important, and a little bit what you teach? I think this is something I would encourage people to learn, because that could happen to you. You could be in your house and people come in. On the farms, they certainly do that. And give us your thoughts there, please.
Your structured combatives, nothing really changes with our technique from, say, close range gunfighting 2. You can use it inside your structure. But setting yourself up for success, like I said earlier, you want layers. So, they get through the first layer, that takes effort. They get through the second layer, that takes effort. The third layer, it's taking efforts. That will weed out most of the potential criminals. The guy, like what your brother experienced, that's pretty dedicated. That's when, again, a firearm in the house is required, because it's shown a complete intent. They want to get in, and look, they've gone through all these layers. Setting your structure up, you can use, say, environmental deterrence, various cacti, plants-wise, stuff, for perimeters. In South Africa, you've got sweet thorn, for corners, stuff like that. Those all act as deterrents. And look, unfortunately, what we're doing is we're just saying, don't come here, it's too much effort, go next door. There we go. What I teach people is that, you don't go searching for them. If you don't have to. Look, if my kid if they're between me and my child, fair enough, then you go. But never ever discount the joy of a hasty ambush. Don't deny that violent thug the joys of your hasty ambush. So gather in. We got standard operating procedures here. My family. If they eventually get through that door, there's just love that I'm gonna spread. My love dispenser gets refilled with more love. That's the thing. They've shown clear intent, and knowing a bit of the law and our justice system, and also what they do to families here.
It's horrific. I know, it's horrific. So yes.
If it ends up me, clawing at the eyes whilst I'm screaming at him and spitting in his eyes, so be it. I'm happy and joyful to do that if it means my family will live.
I agreed. There's so many things to discuss. There's so many other things I wanted to pick up, but you've touched on some of them, and there were things we could really expand upon. And I think anyone who listens to this will be very curious to get your thoughts on other issues. Your views are well thought out, and you explain them very well. Your reasoning is good. I need to slowly wind down so that we keep it within an hour and keep it reasonable. I could keep going, actually, under these circumstances. It's very interesting. And thank you for actually speaking with me, for agreeing to. But
I look forward to this chat.
Can you give us some contact info if people want to get hold of you, your phone number, your social media addresses, website, all of these things, and where you're based, so that people can get hold of you for future training?
We're based in Cape Town, South Africa. For our local classes, it's all up on our Facebook page. It's just Suarez International South Africa. The Instagram account is Suarez Int SA. Twitter, Suarez International South Africa. The website is www.suarezinternational.co.za. And there are classes. I've put up my year's program classes. So if you want to attend a class in November, you can book and pay now. Everything's done securely online. There's our various products there available as well. If you want to host, I do travel. It's America, England, kind of any freedom-loving country that loves its citizens. I'll go and train. So you can just email me personally at gerald@suarezinternational.co.za. Or for general info, it's just the info@suarezinternational.co.za. The books are up on Amazon. Yeah, it's enjoy them. It's free, literally almost free information. But yeah,
just for those who need to know, how do you spell Suarez?
Suarez. Suarez.
Okay, that would be Z for the Americans, right?
Z, yeah. It's like the soccer player, I believe.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's obviously named after Gabe Suarez.
That is correct, yes.
All right. Do you want to tell us about upcoming events in the next month? The couple of events that you've got going that people could possibly
Sure.
sign up for?
Sure. Here in South Africa, I've got on the 17th, actually this Saturday, I've got Essential Foundations. April 14th is Close Range Gunfighting 2. May the 19th is Dynamic Vehicle Combatives. And then the year curriculum is, or the year training schedule is up on the Suarez International Facebook page. So that you book through. I've got a company who does all
the bookings, manage the events.
The bookings, there we go. The bookings for Cape Town, that's Mark Mulder at Gun Portal. But again, you can contact me and I'll send you his details. As he handles all of that because I've got the America, the England stuff, and various other countries.
Oh, yes. I've actually met the guys at Gun Portal. I went in there a couple of weeks back. They're very nice guys. Nice group of guys.
Good lads. They know what they're doing. We use them for all our competencies. Know what they're doing, switched on, and fantastic prices. You just
agreed. I was looking at a Glock 43 9mm single stack, and they were offering me a price that was about $2.5K off market. So yeah, very good.
Yeah. No. They've got some excellent pricing, and you know what? They know what they're doing there. They're Carl and Mark they're switched on. They're not. You can see they have a passion for what they do, and it's unique. It's unique in the business. It's not just about money. It's about, their passion and they love doing what they do.
Thank you, Gerald. So let's call it a day, and hopefully we can chat again in the future. This was very interesting. I'd love to pick this up again sometime.
Sure. Anytime you want.
Thank you, and have a great evening.
Thanks so much. You too. God bless.
Take care. Goodbye.